Did Ken Roczen just announce his retirement? Well, based on the amount, probably myself and most people that are on the media side had their phones just blow up and Twitter notifications and all that, you would definitely think so. In fact, it's still kind of an up in the air situation, but the official press release that Honda or American Honda just dropped was that Ken Roczen is going to effective immediately cease racing, basically to figure out his health. There is no timeline. It's basically indefinite at this point, but basically for now we can say that Ken Roczen has pulled out of the 2022 Monster Energy Supercross Championship. Again, with no timeline. Does he return from those races? Does he return for AMA Pro Motocross? Do we see him at all this year? Nothing is really set in stone at this time, and we're going to talk a little bit about what was kind of in the press release. Honda did kind of recount their time with him, being that Ken Roczen joined American Honda, the HRC Honda team, at the end of 2016, heading into the 2017 season. Of course, we've all seen through the millions of replays and the storylines that Kenny, of course, started out that season amazingly and got hurt to the point that it almost ended his career. After all the surgeries, the comeback, the subsequent injuries, Kenny has dealt with health issues since then. He has talked about dealing with bouts of Epstein-Barr and even other little illnesses that have popped up, including one that took him out of the 2020 AMA Pro Motocross Series when he also basically took a stop on racing to figure out what was going on. It seemed like for a little while maybe Ken had figured out his health, but as we've seen with certain events here and there, it has popped into question. Does he really have control, or have they figured out what is affecting him, what issues he has with his body? As we've seen with him pulling out this, the easy answer would be no, they haven't figured it out. And another interesting little piece from that press release, at least I found interesting, was that the team admits that Ken Roczen had dealt with COVID-19 after I believe it's the San Diego round this year. Being in the industry and going to a lot of these races, I can tell you we have different protocols than most of the fans. We do have to test every single weekend at an event unless you are vaccinated. I know for a fact you would say that Kenny and quite a few, of course, the other riders are not, based on their choice. So we're all taking a test every week. Somehow, they're stating he did, so that means after the San Diego round, he must have tested positive, but by the next weekend's event, must have been cleared to race, because that never really got brought up. He was able to continue racing, but now they're admitting, he's dealt with that, and he's starting to deal with further issues since then. But even if you flash back before that, of course, he won Anaheim 1. His teammate Sexton, while chasing him, did crash, but beyond that, Kenny seemed to cruise to an easy win. Looked like he was back on top of the world, ready for the championship fight, and there was some chaos in those early rounds, so it was unsure to see where he really was at. He did have a couple rough finishes, but so did a lot of other riders. He was definitely in the championship hunt until around that round 4 or 5, when you just really started to see those results become consistent, those lower mid-pack results. He has a couple 13ths on the scoreboard, 7th, 6th, just really odd results to see from Kenny. And it really, there's been a couple of flashes here and there in heat races and in qualifying, but in the mains, it just hasn't come together now for weeks. So as said, the team has agreed, like, hey, take the time, figure out what's going on. Of course, you would think that their primary focus would be, if he can somehow get healthy enough, is to come back for the AMA Pro Motocross Championship. But Ken's primary goal will be to figure out what's going on with his health and do what's best for him. So here's a couple big question marks now. Do we actually see him race at all this year? Again, it's indefinite. He could not line up for AMA Pro Motocross. If he doesn't, is that the last race that we saw him on a Honda? Because his contract ends at the end of this season. As with most of those contracts, it's usually like September 31st, October 1st is the end of contract date where we'd see a rider switch. As far as we're aware and everything we've heard, that is the case for Kenny this year. They have Chase Sexton contracted through 2023. Jet Lawrence is either 23 or even beyond. Hunter Lawrence's contract is currently up, but they are working on renewing that at the moment, leaving Kenny as the only person there that hasn't signed again, or we haven't heard talks of him signing. Everything preseason pointed to, they've been pretty quiet and mums on their end. We've seen Kenny comment, even on social media posts, some things about maybe, not really needing to race for the money anymore. Like, you kind of start to question motivations. Again, the health thing, family, like, is the heart still in it? Does he want to do it? Is he going to want to come back after this? And based on the answers he gets from doctors, is he going to be able to be competitive again? With that, again, this might have been the last race we see him on a Honda. If he is able to return to health to the point that he feels competitive with racing, and it's not by next year, we may see him on another brand. He does, as far as we're aware, have a Red Bull contract that goes through 2023, which could, help him with some options or limit him. As we can see, there is very few operations that go with Red Bull. Pretty much KTM is it. And there's very few teams left that allow you to do your own energy drink deals. Pretty much any other team, any of the other major teams he would go to would be a Monster or a Rockstar situation. Again, if both parties agree it's the best for the future, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him out of the contract, of course, if he has an option on the table that he really wants to do and that they agree is best. A contract is what it is. Both parties can decide that it's time to split up. It's not a big deal, but that is something else that weighs on his future. And again, as the title of this video states, a completely probable scenario here is if they can't really figure out what's going on, or the answers he gets are, pretty negative in the sense of being able to return to a full fighting, healthy Ken to really put in a full season, do we just see him retire? Again, it's very unclear. We haven't heard a lot of talk on where he's going. It could completely happen. And at this point, it wouldn't completely shock us if that was the last race. We saw him race as a professional, basically in his career. Wouldn't surprise if it's the last time we saw him on Honda. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes it back next year. We would like to hear your thoughts, though. Again, this is a very polarizing, very unique story that just came out. A little bit shocking, even though we've seen Kenny sit out before. I think just seeing it mid-Supercross season definitely is catching a lot of people off guard. There was rumors that he may sit out outdoors this year, but of course it looks like that timeline has been pushed up. So again, let's hear your thoughts below, what you think Ken Roczen will do, what you would like to see him do, and make sure you subscribe if you like these news breaks, our tech content, all of our stuff. Check it out at vitalmx.com, and thanks for watching.